911, what's your emergency?
The following content is graphic, emotional, and includes dark humor that may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised. These stories are based on real-life EMS, military, and healthcare experiences. Calls are real, providers are real, names and details have been changed to protect privacy. They may be disturbing to some and are definitely inappropriate for HR department. Any medical or mental health discussion is personal experience, not protocol. Use your damn brain. Follow your local guidelines, and when in doubt, call med control. If you're struggling, don't do it alone. Talk to someone, a coworker, a friend, a therapist, or hell, reach out to me. I'll answer. Need help right now? Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. Welcome back to Dispatch Dysfunctional, the podcast where the stories hit harder than the shift change after 24 hours awake. The humor stays dark, and the truth hasn't passed a single HR approval. Today's guest is someone the entire world thinks they've already known. But today we're going to go past the image, past the headlines, and straight into the man who had to live the life after the photo faded from the news cycles. Before we dive in, brother, introduce yourself. Who are you? What's your story? And what do you want people to take away from today's episode?
Say what? Now say that again. I'm sorry.
Good. So who are you? What's your story? And what do you want people to take away from today's episode?
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, man. Well, my name is Chris Fields. Retired Oklahoma City firefighter. Did 31 years, 7 months, and 16 days with the Oklahoma City Fire. Pardon my sound a little bit, little congested, little allergy / flu season. But yeah, I've been retired about 8 years now. I get the ability, the blessing, the platform to speak on podcasts like this and travel and speak to first responders. A lot of because of the image that was captured after the Oklahoma City bombing during the Oklahoma City bombing of me and Bailey Allman, 1-year-old Bailey. She turned 1 year old the day before.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was of course captured by an amateur photographer, and the next day on April 20th, it was worldwide. It was everywhere. And with that came a lot of a lot of it was probably, if I look back and say a lot of it was kind of self-inflicted burden and stuff. It's just but it's stuff we do as first responders. Getting to know Erin, I felt like I met her the next day, and just getting to know her and all that, I felt like, I don't know, we were connected, attached because of the photo. I'm 12 years older than her, so it was kind of a big brother thing. So, yeah, just the burden of, the photo itself, garnering all the attention, and being singled out in a team environment profession,
right?
And and talking to Erin, being the last one that she knows, that held her baby, and and then the what I call irrational guilt of the stuff it brought on Erin. I had no control over the photo being taken. I didn't even know it was taken till 11:30 that night. We can get into that if you want to, but it was that irrational guilt I felt because in Erin, that she had to deal with that. She was getting bombarded. She wasn't allowed to grieve privately. And she will tell you her loss was no greater than anybody else's. She's never claimed that. She doesn't think that's the case. But it was in me looking at it, I was thinking, God, if it wasn't for that photo, she could, she wouldn't be dealing with what she's dealing. She'd still be dealing with the loss, but not in the public eye.
Right.
And so it's just a lot of stuff that, just a lot of stuff that kind of, took over. And then you take in, into the fact that, I've been on the job 10 years. So I had, you bring trauma to the job anyway. And then I had 10 years on, we had lost 3 brothers in a house fire. And I maintained pretty well a couple of years after the bombing, just kind of pushing it down and being myself. But then you the career goes on. The fire department didn't stop because of the bombing.
Right.
Yeah, and so we ended up, throughout the years, just other stuff piled on, other traumatic calls and stuff, to where one day, the spiral started, and pride and ego got in the way, and kept me from reaching out. So that's kind of what I kind of hope that everybody will take from our conversation is that anytime you leave a call, I don't care what's traumatic to me may not be traumatic to you, and vice versa. If it affects you in any way, that is perfectly normal. I had a guy ask me the other day. I was at a meeting, and he said, "Hey, I can still recall every call almost in my fire service career. Does that make me? I'm normal?" And I said, "You're perfectly normal." I said, "There's nothing wrong." I said, "Now, if it's affecting your sleep or the way you function daily or your relationships, then there might be a problem, and you might need to." So that's why I tell everybody, you're not. I think the cliche is it's okay not to be okay, but it's no, it's not. It's not okay not to be okay, because there's too many resources out there to get the help, and instead of waiting till I almost lost my career and my family and my life over it. So that's what I hope everybody takes from it.
And I agree 100% with that. I think the old stigmas of the old ways of everything should be going to the wayside now. And if you need help, get help. Don't suffer in silence. Don't make us read a eulogy in the paper about anyone on the front lines. That's not
right.
What we need. We need to be able to help each other. We need to be able to provide help for each other, and that's what this whole podcast is for. I mean, I've been told by people there's no other podcast like mine, because mine's the mental health side of things, and no one else really has it. And that's my whole outlook. Is the whole mythology behind our psyche needs to change, and we need to be able to accept help, get help, and when we need it.
Right. And that's what I say, we want to talk about the profession and how brave of a profession it is and things we do. And I agree it is, but the bravest thing you'll ever do is, if you need to, is to reach out, for help. And, if we truly want to be there to help take care of others, if that's truly our calling and that's truly why we're in the profession, then you can't take care of others if you're not taking care of yourself. That's plain and simple. If you're not functioning at full capacity, how could you be there for anybody else? They're not getting the best version of you. So
very true. So a single picture froze him in time, but time didn't freeze for him. And today we're talking about everything that came before and everything that came after. So take us back to that morning. What do you remember from the moment the tones dropped until you arrived at the Murrah Building? I probably butchered that name.
All right. Alfred P. Murrah Building. Yeah, it's one of the federal buildings. April 19th, 1995. It was a Wednesday. I always remember it was a Wednesday, because at the fire station on certain days of the week, if you worked, you had certain duties, cleaning the windows. Well, Wednesday was yard day. I just remember guys were out taking care of the yard. And we were standing in the kitchen talking about breakfast, because it was about 9:00, talking about going to the grocery store. And we heard it, we felt it. My fire station at this time, Fire Station 5, we were one block to the east and 17 blocks north. That was our locale to the bomb site. And so we felt it, we heard it, it rattled the station, the windows. We all thought we had we had an ice cream plant, board and ice cream plant next to the station. We thought, and they had a train track where they'd unload, and we thought a train had derailed, seriously. And we went out those side doors at the station, didn't see anything, looked back to the south, towards downtown, and saw the large plume of smoke, black smoke. And that was which eventually came. We know it came from all the car fires. There was no fire in the actual building, But so we just self-dispatch. There was we at that station that day. We had an engine, we had a rescue ladder, we had a hazardous materials unit, and I was the officer on the hazardous materials unit that day. And we bailed and made our little hairpin turn off the apron and headed south towards downtown, and just really, discussing every scenario we thought it could be. We knew it was a huge blast. We know maybe it was like a natural gas pipeline or, natural gas explosion or what it could have been. We got about probably 8-9 blocks away, just starting our route, and started seeing some storefront windows, businesses. There's a lumber yard, like their storefront windows were blown out, and people were kind of coming out, kind of like we did, just to see what was going on. And when we made the turn on to Fifth Street, which is the street that the Murrah Building sat on, and did some triage at a YMCA that was catty corner, and then we got a call from the incident commander at the time to come down to the building and assist the PD, and then catch up with some other units. And that was, we still really hadn't seen the building. It was a little bit of a hill, so you couldn't see the bottom of the building till you crested that hill. And once we were walking on, and I could still feel it and hear it. I mean, we were walking on debris. We weren't even touching the pavement. We were walking on glass and concrete and all sorts of stuff. Papers were still falling, but I always tell people, and it's not to take away from the 168 battalion, but if we would have stood there at the bottom of that building, once we saw it on the corner of 5th and Robinson, and standing there looking at 9 stories, pancake down on top of each other, a third of the building, like somebody just took a bite out of the building, 9 stories, pancake down, 30-foot crater out front from the Ryder truck with the bomb, and 9 o'clock in the morning, downtown on a weekday. If you'd have said, hey, we're only going to have 168 fatalities, I would have said, we'll take it.
Right.
Seeing that much damage, that time of day, as many people, there ended up being over 700 and something, injuries,
right,
on top of the 168 fatalities. And I can't remember the number of buildings that were damaged, but I think it damaged buildings like in a 14 square block area. I mean, so,
I think I remember.
And there's
14.
Yeah, and there was police officers. Oklahoma City is Oklahoma City. We run through other cities and we come out on the other side of it, but Oklahoma City is 620 square miles. So there's, we have 38 fire stations now, over 1,000 personnel. And, but there were cops that were like on patrol that were, they could still be in Oklahoma City and be 45 minutes from downtown, 50 minutes. And they actually radioed to their dispatch. They felt the blast, asking what it was and all that. And they were, 30 and 40 miles away. So that's how far it was felt. So, like I said, looking back, like I say, it's a horrible number, but I would have imagined it would have been a lot worse when I first viewed the building, and then we just started, search and rescue for the next 11 hours, 12 hours. We got, 14 hours, 13 hours. We got sent home we finally got released, go back to the station at like 11:15 that night, and so, and they rotated other crews down there and all that. So, but and it's one of them deals when you go back to the station. I mean, like I say, the fire department doesn't shut down. There's still first aid calls. There's still car wrecks. There's still house fires going on. So it was just, I think what was so weird and so different about this type of call was at the time I had 10 years on, and you could take everything I had seen, done, smelled, everything at that point in my career, anybody that was on the scene, and now all that was in a 1 square block area,
Damn.
all the sights, the sounds, the smells of a career were now all within a 1 square block area. So it was daunting. And I think it was one of the deals where adrenaline's going and you don't really, I would say until even after the building was imploded, does everybody really sit back and look back and say, I can't believe what we just went through,
Damn, that had to have been a very hard day.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was, we've had some pretty major deals here with, F5 tornadoes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, y'all are in
a it is definitely, yeah. But it was definitely one of those days that, until they throw dirt on top of me, it'll be etched in my mind, so.
Right. Yeah, I could only imagine that. And I'm sure there's a lot of triggers that hit you when even to this day that you don't realize it's going to hit you until it hits you?
Yeah, I tell you what, and I don't go to the anniversaries. I still go down at the memorial. I've taken some friends through that have come through town and met them down there, and I can deal with it. And but as far as triggers, um, a little insight into my story. When the photo and all the things that were going on afterwards and the interviews and all that kind of stuff, and then still working my job. Because I always told the fire chief, he'd say, "Hey, would you do this interview with so and so?" And I would say, "I will, but I'm not going to do it on duty.
Right.
I'm not going to, I'm not going to not take my shift on down at the building to be doing interviews." So, so working and then doing the interviews, and it was taking its toll on me. But of course, as ego and, like I said, pride and all that kicks in, I don't want anybody to think I'm struggling. I don't want my chiefs that put me in a supervisor's position. I was a captain at the time, and didn't want them to think I couldn't handle what was going on. I sure didn't want my driver and the people, firefighters underneath me, to think I couldn't handle it. So you just kind of bury it and suppress it, and you go on down the road.
Right.
And I was doing pretty good at it. I can look back now and talk to my wife now, and of course she knew, she could tell something was different, but it's so much more open now to talk about it. But back then she didn't know what to say or do or what not to say, and it was probably about, this went on for about 6 or 7 years, just kind of, just getting by, but still putting on I was kind of the joker at the station, I still had to keep that going. And so I didn't want anything to be off so they wouldn't question me, about how I was doing. And then, we were putting a pool in the backyard. We were busting out concrete to extend our patio out. And, I was busting out the patio and it started to, sprinkle a little bit. And a lot of people don't know, it rained the night of the Oklahoma City bombing. It rained that night. And so I caught a smell of wet concrete dust when I was busting out our patio. And that was kind of really the first, what I would say was what I guess reminders or triggers too, because there'd be things that would remind me of the bombing or remind me of other calls,
Right.
or remind me of the house fire where we lost 3 brothers. But this was what I really considered wasn't a memory. It was a trigger. And that wet concrete dust smell kind of took me back to that day. I didn't freak out, or I didn't, do anything. I just but I can pinpoint that as the day is when everything kind of really started to spiral.
Gotcha.
More intensely, as far as I've been having, little bouts of isolation and, little mini bouts of isolation, depression, and isolation was the big thing, and, anger, and, but all that kind of intensified. And it got to a point to where it was affecting my home life. It was affecting my role as a father. By this time I have 2 sons, and, my wife made the decision, and I don't blame her, that she told me either I need to talk to somebody and get some help, because I hadn't talked to me at that time, or I need to get out. And I chose the path of pride and ego and said, I'm good. I'll just get out then. I'll just get out of your way. And that's what I did. And took off on a spiral and when I was doing it, I was looking back thinking, hey, I'm living my life. I'm doing what I want to do. We were separated for 17 months.
Wow.
While I did. Yeah, it was, it's not a proud moment. All I did for the next 15 to 17 months was, humiliate and embarrass my family, and, extramarital affair that wasn't, I wasn't even trying to hide. And anybody that was trying to reach out, all my friends that were saying, hey man, we're here for you, those are the ones I was, pushing away.
Yep.
Those are the ones I was telling them, you don't get it, you don't understand. And they weren't trying to say they did understand. I look back and most of them would even say that. I said, I'm not trying to say I understand. I'm just saying I'm here for you. What do you want? Can we get you some, so that's what I did for the next, 16, 17 months. It's just totally tried to destroy that. And came dependent on, Xanax to fight the anxiety and all that kind of stuff. You know, I was going to say probably, but not probably, most definitely, you know, showed up at work a few times in a condition I shouldn't have, you know,
Yeah.
and things like that. And so I say this went on for, golly, like I say, 17 months. And I don't know, I came to that point in my life. And, you know, and I used to look at people that would even contemplate suicide and think, you know, that's selfish. What are you doing? It makes no sense. You know, there's so many alternatives. But here I am sitting in this little apartment I had in this room. And, you know, and it's really not about the dying. It was about, I couldn't think of another way to stop destroying my family.
Right.
And stop. So I just thought, well, if I take enough of these Xanax, I didn't sit down and draw out a plan or anything. I was just sitting there and thought, you know what, if I take enough of these and I don't wake up, then so be it.
Right.
You know, so that was my intent when I took them and drank that night. And, you know, by God's grace, you know, I'm still here.
Yeah.
And, you know, called my wife and that next morning and just told her, I said, I want to come home. That's all I said. And she said, well, we'll come on. And,
awesome.
And she will tell people, you know, God gave her the grace to, you know, to be able to say, come on and let's work through this, forgive me. And she'll tell people now, I mean, yeah, we're great. Everything's going great. Her, like she said, she'll tell people, she spoke with me a few times at some things and, she'll just tell people, I just knew that wasn't Chris Fields I was dealing with.
Right.
Because when I looked in his eyes, it was just dark and empty. And I really didn't understand that until I've been, not that I'm in the mental health world,
right.
But I get to travel and speak, and I've had guys call me, and I've met with people that are where I was, and it's true, man. There's just like a emptiness in their eyes, you know, darkness, and she said that's what she saw, and like she told people, I just wanted to get Chris Fields back so he could be a father for his sons. You know, I don't think her goal at the time was to say, let's save this marriage. Let's, you know,
right.
She said, she wanted to try to help get me healthy so I could be there and be a father for my boys. And then, like I said, it was a process. I ended up reaching out for some help and went to a facility out in California, totally first responders only. You know, and that was my kind of my first inkling into going, okay, I'm not, it's been about you long enough.
Yeah.
Fields, you know, Chris, you're not the only one, you know. And when I was sitting there at this, WCPR, this place out in California, and, you know, it's kind of like, what I would imagine you see on TV when they have the AA meetings, they stand up and introduce themselves, you know, and that's what we did. We went around the room and we had to stand up and tell our name. And you had the option of going into your story a little bit, or you could say you were JFU. And I don't know if we can cuss on your show here, but that stood.
Yep.
We stood for just fucked up.
Yeah.
And you could say that, or you could just, they made me a little hat said JFU. And yeah, it was really but most everybody takes the opportunity to tell a little story, you know, especially when you're in the mindset we're in, that I'm going to tell this story, and everybody's going to go, oh, wow, I can't believe what he went through, you know. So I tell a little bit of my story. The next person stands up, 22-year-old rookie cop. She's from LA, and she told her story. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe my story sounds, you know, and that's when I learned too, you don't compare trauma. Like I said, but that's what we do, you know.
I honestly think it's ingrained in our field, in all honesty. I think that's a part of it, the ingraining that we go through is that's how we numb ourselves. And the trauma comparison to me is a way that we cope with our own traumas to make it not so bad.
Right. I agree. And then, but like I said, she told her story, and then the gentleman next to her stood up. I think he was a Sacramento firefighter. he stood up and told his story. And even me and her were like, Megan was her name. We were like, oh my gosh, we just told our stories. You hear what he went through, and it was that way all the way around the room.
Right.
So
kind of an eye-awakening moment.
yeah, it was. It was kind of an eye-opener going, you know what, and these were people from all parts of the United States, so it wasn't, and there were big departments, small departments, career departments, volunteer departments. It didn't matter. And it doesn't matter. The trauma, it's real. We can't compare it. If you're in this profession long enough, something will affect you.
Yep.
It doesn't have to affect you to the point that or you don't have to let it affect you to the point that you spiral out of control. Like I get to travel with some guys that's trauma behind the badge and do some speaking, and that's kind of our main message is you don't have to wait until things are out of control. Don't wait until you're backed into a corner and you're given the choice, hey, you've already lost your family and your career, but now we want to, and that's what I tell guys when they call and they're struggling and they're talking about their job, and I'm going, you know what? I'm not trying to be mean, but I really don't care about your job right now.
Yeah.
I want you healthy. I want you to enjoy life, and so, fire departments across the country are getting better about being a little more proactive and not being, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, where they don't punish you for reaching out, saying you need help,
Right.
And punitive. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Where they're not punitive, and it's one of those deals where, I don't know. It's kind of one of them deals. And I grew up, I still love the fire service. I mean, I'd do it all over again, if they'd let me and if my body would let me. But they, you hear all the brotherhood and the sisterhood talk and all that kind of stuff. Well, to me, that's all BS and out the window unless you're willing to be there for them, no matter what treat the guy or girl that's struggling mentally, or maybe not even struggling. That's not even a good word. Maybe just having some intrusive thoughts about stuff. I don't want to say struggling, but be there for them just like you'd be there for the brother or sister that got occupational cancer.
Right.
Or for the one that gets hurt on the fire scene, or for, it's the same, it's the exact same thing.
Well,
But we seem to want to put people on the pedestal that get hurt on the fire ground and do stuff. And of course, occupational cancer, which is devastating. We line up at their houses and do food trains, and we take care of them, and we celebrate when they ring the bell. We celebrate when they get out of the hospital from being hurt. But when they come home from either going to get some help, or you find out maybe they're struggling or having some intrusive thoughts, we kind of back off and hands off, and we go over the corner and point fingers a little bit. And like I say, that's just if we really want to preach this family and this brotherhood and this sisterhood, then we're there for everybody no matter what. And we call them out. I've called out family members. Same thing. If you think somebody's, you can tell something's affecting them and they're a little different, I don't say call them out publicly or, pull them aside and say, hey man, I just want to check on you. I notice you used to get here every morning at 6:00 ready to go. And now you're strolling in right before the, tone goes off at 7 a.m. Or now you're being late every now and then. I mean, they're just little things we pick up on, and instead of checking up on it, we just kind of, blow it off and let them kind of sail, dangle in the wind.
Right. That's like
instead of reaching out and seeing
earlier. You tried to hide it, and you may have tried to hide it as well, and your coworkers or brothers or sisters may not have seen it as they wanted to, but they did notice something. And like you said, we all let it go to the wayside. We all just push it aside, like, hey, maybe he's having a bad day. But if it's 2 or 3 shifts, check in on each other.
That's what I say. Yeah, that's what I say, man. And once I got back from treatment and got things going again, that's the first thing I did. I sat everybody down. I was a station officer at another station now, Station 35, where I retired out of. I just sat them down and told them exactly, because I was so good at hiding it. A lot of people on the fire department didn't know. The higher ups did, but I just told them, where I'd been, what I'd been through, and why, and how it could have been avoided. I just kind of, and I don't want to say it was like an aha moment. But I know that it kind of made it easier in the future for us to sit around and talk about, maybe a call that affected us a little more or something like that. But, and I wasn't shy about checking on my brothers and sisters anymore if I thought they were struggling. So, and I hate to use the word struggling because it doesn't mean just because you're having a thought about a call or it's kind of eating, it doesn't mean you're struggling. But, and so it just lets it know it's okay to sit around the breakfast table and smoke and joke and talk about some real issues.
Yeah, we all have the right to have bad days. We all have the right to have bad thoughts. It doesn't make you a fucked up person to have a call mess with you. It doesn't. It's not a fucked up psyche if the calls mess with your head. That's
Right.
I recently learned that myself from a call I had. So and it was very eye awakening talking to the psychiatrist and understanding
Yeah.
that he put it the same way you said. Everyone's trauma is different.
Right.
Someone may have a trauma from a kid, someone may have a trauma from old people, so on and so forth, car wrecks, whatever. We just don't wear your trauma like a trophy.
Yeah. And don't compare it to anybody else's and think they don't know anything because they haven't seen what you've seen. It kind of gets, and it's the same message that I got from them old crusty smoke eaters when I was hired way back in 1985. I mean, that's what I tell people. I was raised on the fire department. I got hired when I was 20. I became a husband, a father, while on the job. So everything I did was in the fire service. And these old, they just started wearing self-contained a couple of years before I got hired, and I think 2 rookie classes before mine when they finally said no more standing and riding on the tailboards. I mean, we didn't even have bunker pants. We had 3/4 boots. So I'm like old school, and, but those old smoke eaters, it was the same message, just a different approach. Cause they would always say like, hey, I know we just made a 2-year-old doing CPR and it didn't work, but I need you to put that away. I need you to focus because if we're on a house fire in 20 minutes, I need you focused on that. Or if we're on a car, I need you focused because I'm dependent on you.
Yeah.
But, of course, a little more gruff, and just tell you to, and because that's the way they were raised in the fire
Right.
service. It doesn't mean they didn't care. They weren't empathetic or sympathetic, or it's just the way they were raised. It was just the fire service culture. And now it's that same message. Hey, I can't have you focusing and thinking about that call, but now we can say, let's talk about it. Let's, get it out how you're feeling. Instead of back, 40 years ago, it was,
Right.
Hey, push it away. We got things to do. And now we can say, hey man, let's take 5-10 minutes and get it off your chest, and that may be all you need. And
True.
that may be all you need. It may not lead to going to see a clinician or going to a facility for treatment or anything. So,
Well, and it's funny you said that is that 5 or 10 minutes can make such a traumatic change in someone that it'll be from I'm feeling horrible to holy shit I'm amazing, and just 5 or 10 minutes, and it's
yeah. Well, I tell you what, real quick, I have a clinician, a buddy. He's retired Norfolk, Virginia detective. He started their peer support system for
awesome.
Norfolk, Virginia. And he said one time he had a guy come in. He was their peer coordinator. Said he had a guy come in and just for 20 minutes just went off, yelling, telling his story, cussing, everything. And when they got done, the guy felt great, and he looked at his name's Chris. Also, he looked at him. He said, Chris. He said, you are fantastic. And Chris said, like, I didn't say a word. I never said a word. I just let him. He vented for 20 minutes, but when he left there, he felt better and was telling everybody how good I was at doing this peer stuff. And Chris Scallon's his name, and he was like, I never said a word. He said it was just him having a place to unload.
To vent.
So sometimes it's as simple as that right there.
Very true. And like you said, the mentality of the old timers has been changing. I've noticed as well, and it's coming to light that a lot of the older guys are struggling more than they let on.
Oh yeah, and retirement's a big deal. A lot of retirees, are struggling more than they used to, and it's a leaving the job, especially it was an adjustment for me leaving after 30, almost 32 years. I mean, that's who you are and what you do for 30. I didn't do it. I don't have any other skills.
Yeah.
you know? So it's just who I was and what I did for 30 something years.
So back to what we were talking about a minute ago as well is, so did your wife notice that you were struggling before before you left and all that, or was that just
Oh, yeah.
okay?
Yeah. Yeah, she knew. And like she said, she did. And that's why I think it's really, really, really important that when either fire departments, police department, any first responder agency, if they're having recruit academies or I think they need to have a family night. The spouses need to be involved and know, they don't have to be told everything, but they need to be, exposed to what their spouse is going to see and experience, because there are certain things they can say, to check in. There's certain things that maybe they shouldn't say,
Yeah.
to check in. I mean, there's ways of, so I think it's so important that, because she'll tell you, yeah, she knew, but she didn't know. Of course, this was, 1995, 98, 99,
Right.
2000. It was still, it was way, way back when all this was still first responders struggling mentally was still kind of in the weeds, and so she didn't know what to say or what to do or where to go. She would call a chaplain or she would call friends. And of course, she's getting advice from friends whose spouses aren't first responders. And so, yeah, I just think it's really important that the spouses, significant others or whatever, be involved with the data,
Very.
learning about the job.
And it's funny that you say it that way too, is because me personally, I didn't realize I was struggling until my wife said, "Hey, look,
Yeah.
something's changed. Like, you've been a little different for the past few months. Something's going on. Go get help."
Yeah.
And honestly, that's why I've transitioned from offshore back on land, is the issues. But,
Yeah.
and my issues started offshore. But anyways, not to get into
Yeah.
that right now. I take away from your
And
story.
sometimes it takes that other person to kick you in the seat of the pants, to say, hey, and it makes you go, even if you go, I don't believe you, but you sit back and start thinking about what they're saying, you're going, man, they are seeing right through me. We think we're fooling people and we're not. They see it.
So, what's something people would be surprised about to learn about you outside of the uniform?
Uh,
Because we can't live our lives by our jobs.
right.
That's where a lot of us, I think, struggle as well, is
Uh,
trying to bring the jobs home and all that good stuff.
yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, I've just, I'm a big old, you can ask my wife, I'm a huge softy. Uh, everybody thinks you gruff and tough firefighters and first responders, and we could be watching some show and she'll look across and she'll go, "Are you crying?" And so that's probably, a lot of people wouldn't maybe think or something, but I'm a big old softy. I got, neither one of my sons are firefighters, and I didn't push them towards it. Hell, I may have drove them away from it, uh, but and I didn't push them towards it. I thought, if you want to be a firefighter, be a firefighter.
Right.
Don't do it because you think I want you to.
Right.
I joke with them. I would joke with them and say, "Hey, don't do it because you think I want you to, and then you suck at it, and you end up quitting, or you're not very good." I said, "Now you're messing with my reputation." So that's what I used to always tell them. But no, it's just, and probably the fact I've been retired 8 years, man. I keep up with all the technology in the fire service. I'm just gonna, I'm not eat up with it, but
Right.
I'll read articles and kind of keep up with the fire service still and the trends and what's going on. And just the changes in Oklahoma City in the last 8 years are absolutely, I'm floored. The things they do now. Now
Yeah.
the dispatch office has 10 drones they can launch and go help with wildfires.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
yeah, they got those deals now where if you call 911, our dispatch can send you a link and you hit it on your phone. Now you can actually show them what you're seeing. And I mean, just
Wow. So y'all got really
all,
progressive over there. That's awesome.
yeah, it's
That is
insane, the
cool.
technology and what they can do now.
That is awesome. I think that needs to be happening all over the country. That would help
Yeah,
so much.
yeah,
So,
it's crazy.
question on that one. So, if they call 911 and they show the 911 operator, can they forward that to the trucks to where the
Yeah,
oh,
that's my understanding.
that
Yeah,
is
I mean,
cool.
don't quote me on that. But that's
Right.
my understanding.
So that the crews
They
can
can
see
forward
what's
it
going
to.
on in real time. That's
Yeah, they
awesome.
could. Yeah, it's real time, and they. But I think our dispatch has like I think 10 of them. They're remotely spaced around the city in secure locations, and they can launch them and fly them. And then once a district chief gets on the scene of we have some pretty good wildfires out here,
Right.
large rural areas, and yeah, they can launch their little drones and go up and see what's going on, and
That is cool.
so yeah, it's crazy. It's probably too much technology for me. I probably got out at the right time. I'm
Right.
not a big IT. I'm not a big technology guy.
It's shaping the world. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt,
We're gonna
no
be
doubt.
fucked with it or fucked without it. So hey.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Exactly.
So who in your
So,
career shaped you the most? By the way.
oh man, there's so many. You know, there was a gentleman named Benny Zellner. He was a captain on the job. He was one of the guys we lost in the house fire. I got hired in '85, and we lost three brothers in '89 in a house fire flashover, and Benny was one of them. And I always tell people he was just like that firefighter. You know, just that's who everybody wanted to be. He was just he wasn't braggadocious. He was just a good dude. And you know, I had some other uh, chiefs that I worked for. There's a gentleman named Clayton Bell. He was a major. Oklahoma City Fire. We had a rank called major,
Okay.
and what that was, it was just a career development step. If you had so many hours towards a degree and went to this academy, you went from a captain to a major. It's just an extension, and that's what I retired as a major. But like when I became a station officer and a major and everything, that's who I wanted to emulate was how Clayton Bell kind of ran things. Uh, and as a major, if you're riding out for a chief, you make, sometimes chief's off, you move up and ride out as a chief. And he was the type that if I was riding out as a chief and we'd make a house fire and his rigs would come in, man, I would have no problem. I don't sit there and try to say, hey, I'm chiefing this thing. You're going to have to call Clayton. I'd say, hey, dude, what do you think? You think we did? Are we looking out here? What do you think? I had no problem. He was just, and then a couple other chiefs, that there was a guy named Tony Young and Bill Robinette, and they both just kind of helped guide me through my career, and I'm still in touch with all those people, other than Benny, of course, but I'm still in touch with all those people today. They were mentors, they were good friends, and they had success in their career. And there sometimes that people didn't always agree with what they did or like them, but in most cases I found out it was those. You always get those officers that aren't liked because they expect you to know your job, and I would always look at the guys that are going, why do you think he's a dick? Well, he says it because he wants you to know your job. I mean, it's just kind of one of them deals, but
Right.
yeah, so there were several on the job that kind of I kind of emulated and wanted to, didn't want to be like them, but I took things from each one of them, as far as how to treat my guys and girls and work on a fire alarm or a fire scene and, manage the station and that kind of stuff. So
It's awesome. And so on the flip side, did anyone ever hold you more accountable than the others when you needed it most?
those people I named, yeah,
So they did both for you. That's awesome. That's very
yeah, Chief Robinette probably the most. I didn't work for him very long. I worked around him. I didn't work for him very long, but yeah, he was. Yeah, he would definitely hold you accountable. He was just an old country boy, and and he expected you to know your job, and don't. I mean, it was kind of weird. It was like okay, if we make a house fire, you're going to pull that hand line. I know you're going to pump 140 to it, whatever. Tell me, he would always say, you don't need to know it, but tell me, how are you pumping 140 to it? What do you do? It's just kind of like, instead of just going out there and saying, they're going to pull that line, I'm going to pull this handle and turn this knob and turn it up. He said, explain. I mean, he just wanted you to actually know how things worked, and at times even I'd be going, oh my God, really? But looking back, I was going, okay, dude just wanted you to know your job, just know your job. But he was probably he was probably one of the most influential that also like held you accountable.
That's awesome. So back to the healing part of things. So what does healing look like for you now, day to day?
Well, I tell people, I said, I try not to have bad days anymore. I still have days that aren't as good as others. And one of the biggest struggle and why I want people to, first responders, to get the help before they go down the road that I went down and several of my friends have gone down is because, man, I am so far removed from the trauma of the job. I really am. I don't have any calls that I sit here, that'll pop in my head. There's no anniversaries, even the bombing. Everything I either struggle with now is looking back and forgiving myself, which is the hardest thing to do, for everything I put my family and friends through when I didn't have to do it. They didn't sign up for it. So, like I said, here I am, 61 years old, 8 years removed from the job. And my biggest struggles really, and it's not struggles, but there's some days where I'll go, I'm so thankful for where I'm at now, but I'll go, oh my God, I can't believe. Because sometimes I'll look at my wife and go, I can't believe 20 years or 15 years ago, 20 years ago, man, I did the things I did or said the things I said or made my son see a side of me that, yes, I'm forgiven and things are great, but they can always recall that in their mind,
Right.
and I'm thinking, I put that there when I didn't have to do it. So that's my biggest message about reaching out and getting the help before it's too late is so you don't have to look back in like I say, the trauma and all that, I'm good. But
Right.
sometimes you don't have to look back and regret some of your actions. And that's probably my biggest, if there is a struggle today, that's kind of the thing that I still struggle with a little bit.
Gotcha. So tell us about Trauma Behind the Badge. What made you turn your pain into a mission to help others?
Man, that was just kind of a weird, the Trauma Behind the Badge came about a couple of years. I really had no intentions of telling my story or speaking or anything. I went to a deal down in Norman, Oklahoma, place in Oklahoma, and met this guy, and he was doing some work around the country, mental health, first responders. He's a retired cop. And he said, have you ever thought about telling your story and letting it help others? And I thought, no, not really. And so 2 or 3 months go by, and this gentleman named Jay Dobbins, who
I spoke with him.
Jay Dobbins, Jay calls me. I don't even know him from Adam at the time. And he says, hey, I'm having this little deal out in Arizona. Would you come out and speak at it? I've never spoke before. It was the first time I ever spoke. It was in front of about probably 70 people, 80 people. It was probably horrible. I mean, I'm looking back thinking about it. People probably going, good Lord, what's he talking about? But then it was kind of, I focused pretty much on the photo, and, now as I travel, and talk, I can talk about all the other things
Right.
of the career that affected me. But when I was out there, I met a gentleman named Doug Monda, who's a retired drug agent and cop down in Cocoa, Florida. And me and him kind of hit it off and bonded. And then we did some things together. And then he's good friends with Raul Rivas, who is a retired Orlando SWAT guy who was involved taking down the Pulse nightclub shooter.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And then that Chris Scowling guy that I talked about that did so we just kind of all started kind of running into each other at these speaking things. And we just thought, you know what, we got a pretty good thing here. And so we formed this Trauma Behind the Badge. We've kind of taken off the last year or so as far as our podcast stuff. Haven't done them. Our schedules got so busy. I think we're doing a little promoting now. We're going to start them back up and try to do one a month at least and post it on, Spotify or whatever.
Right.
A lot of times we have guests on, a lot of times just us chewing the fat, shooting the crap, and it's like sitting around the fire station table or out back at the police, at the parking lot, solving the world's problems. And so, and there's some stuff we get invited to go speak, all four of us to go together. There's a fifth one now, named Rich Creamer. Forgot about him. He's retired, Norfolk, also. Great story, great guy. So yeah, it was just kind of, you look back and you think, okay, man, maybe it was a God thing that kind of threw us all together, because out of nowhere, Jay Dobbins calls me, and I'm out in Arizona, and I meet Doug Monda, which I would have never met if I hadn't been in Arizona. I mean, just kind of, and so that's what we do today. Like I say, we haven't done much the last year or so. Everybody's been kind of busy with their own, but we're getting ready to kick things back off again and get it rolling again. So, and it's www.traumabehindthebadge.us is the website.
So if a young firefighter or medic is listening right now and stuffing everything down, what do you want to say to them directly?
Man, I would say everything you're experiencing, feeling, spiritually, emotionally, whatever, is perfectly, perfectly normal. Don't question your ability to do the job. Don't question if you're cut out for the job. I would worry about the person that has no feelings, that nothing affects them or bothers them, but, and if it's intrusive thoughts, if those thoughts and stuff, like I say, are starting to affect your sleep, your daily activity, man, just reach out and get help. There's not too many fire departments across the country that don't have some kind of resource to reach out, and if you're not comfortable with them, go online, man, Google up. There's there's apps you can get on now and talk to people, anonymously. There's so many resources out there now that are available to, old Barney Fife used to stay on Andy Griffith. You could nip it in the bud, instead of waiting until most of your listeners are going to go, who the hell is Barney Fife and who the hell is Andy Show? But
hey, that was actually a good show.
Always say, nip it in the bud. And that's what I say, man, get things before the wheels fall off. It's too good a career, too good and rewarding and fulfilling career to let your ego and pride destroy it.
Right. And on that note, I'm big on the 988 thing because of the fact that you can remain anonymous, and it's helped a lot of people I know as well, and it's easy to get a hold of. I'm glad to change the number.
Yeah.
So what's one coping mechanism that you used to rely on, and then you later realized was destroying you?
What mechanism did I use to rely on?
Yeah, like a coping mechanism. I know for me, it used to be alcohol, and I've noticed it was.
Oh, mine was isolation and Xanax.
That works.
Yeah. I mean, that was my thing. If I just got away from people and I felt more comfortable, sitting by myself than being around a bunch of people. Yeah. So isolate, which is the worst thing.
Right.
Isolation and Xanax. And one of my coping mechanisms now is where I used to rely on that stuff. Now it's just gratitude.
Yeah.
I try to practice a day of gratitude, or if I'm feeling, sometimes I need to come in my office and just chill for 15, 20 minutes and, nothing on, no computer, no phone, no lights, just kind of chill. And so, I think gratitude is one of my, because I look back where I was and where I could be or where I could not be. And, so gratitude is one of my coping mechanisms now.
And that's actually a really good one for everybody, in my opinion as well, because I was actually thinking about this yesterday. Is I wasn't expecting my podcast to take off as much as it did, because it was a start for me for my mental health. And
right,
we'll talk to people like you, Jay Dobbins, that I've spoke with, R.L. Carpenter, all the people I've spoken with. It's fantastic to learn the stories, to understand more of what we all go through and the behind the scenes of all this, and to be grateful for this. I would have never met you if I never had this podcast. It's amazing,
Right. Yeah. And also I was just grateful. Some of my gratitude, my gratefulness, is the 32 years on the job, or 31 years, 7 months, 16 days, was during all the bombing stuff. And then once people knew my story, man, the support from my brothers and sisters, past and present in the Oklahoma City Fire Department was, I mean, it was just, that may just being part of Oklahoma. It's just the way we are. I mean, but it was just the support I had from my brothers and sisters and the administration and all that was outstanding. So, that's another thing. When I practice my gratitude, I'm thankful I was in a situation where I was surrounded by people that did care and didn't give up.
That's big. That's huge.
So,
So, if you weren't in public safety, where do you think you'd be today?
I don't know. I don't know. Man, I'd probably be in the sports world somehow, whether it be, yeah, I mean, whether it's journalist, writer, commentator, something. I mean, because me and my family we're eat up with sports, so it'd probably be it'd be something in the probably something in the sports world. I mean, yeah. So I mean, that's immediately what I think of. So.
All right. So, what's the funniest or dumbest call you ever ran? The one that still makes you laugh even to this day.
Well,
Mine was being
I
chased
don't know if we can
by a naked man. So, hey.
do what?
I said mine's being chased by a naked man that hit me in the head of the pole.
Oh, I don't know. Some of them, the call itself wasn't funny. It was the things we did back then to make them funny. I don't know. We used to respond on this lady all the time, frequent flyer, and she'd always need help getting to the bathroom. And one day, she just said, "I need to get to the bathroom," and she couldn't. I mean, her house was, barely room to walk,
Right?
And little bitty bathroom. You had to try to get her in, which really wasn't part of our job description, but we did it. So every time we had a new guy or a new girl, new person, we'd go over there and she'd say, "Well, I got to do number 2, not just number 1." We'd always make sure we can figure it to where the new person's got her, underneath her arm, shoulder. They go in the bathroom first backwards and set her down. And as soon as we set her down, the other ones that were on her legs and stuff, we exit, close the door behind us, close the bathroom door behind us. And we just had one gentleman who was, I don't know, he was just a little extra excited when we did that. And just, so we talk about that. I won't use names or anything, but we talk about that call quite a bit. And, just I think it was more his reaction and the things he was saying behind that door that had us in the floor rolling, so yeah.
So what's one misconception about you that you want to clear up once and for all?
I don't know. Somebody would have to call and tell me what they think of me. I mean, tell me what a I don't know. I don't know.
I was like, I don't know anything bad about myself, so.
Man, I'm just thinking. I don't know. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm not as. I don't know. I really don't. I'd have to wait until somebody come up and said, you do this, or you're an ass, or you're, and I'd have to go, well, I'm really not. I'm just kind of. I don't know. I don't.
I'm always going to throw this one out there.
There we go. There we go. I'm not rich. People think because you travel and speak, you make tons and tons of money or something, and you don't. And so there you go. I'm not rich.
So what's something in your personal life, not career, that shaped you into the man you are today?
Not my career. If it wasn't for the things I went through in my career, I wouldn't be who I am. Probably my spirituality, my spiritual side, being raised, in the church with my mom and dad and stuff like that. So, probably that would be more than anything. Now, me and God had some battles back in the day, but probably my spiritual side.
Gotcha. I think we all battle with that every now and then.
Yeah.
So before we wrap this all up, I want to hand the mic back to you for 1 second. Talk directly to the responders, the spouses, the ones barely keeping it together. What's the one thing you want them to carry with them after hearing your story today?
and just remember there's always hope. I mean, it's never too late. I always tell them too, if you've got a story to tell it, because it may be, there's no saying like your darkness may be somebody else's light, or something to that effect. I always tell people, if you got a story, tell it. If you reach out, if you need to reach out for help, reach out for help. It's not going to be a rosy, easy path. There's a lot of truth you got to deal with about yourself, and stuff like that. And just remember, man. I mean, it's a career that you're going to see or do things and smell things, touch things that are going to affect you, and that is the human part of you. And your heart's gonna get stepped on this job. I think you got to have a heart to do this career.
Very true.
And so in that career, your heart's going to be stepped on. There's nothing wrong with that. And just remember, just to be there for each other. Mainly the actual person doing the job. Remember that your family, your spouse, your significant other, didn't sign up for it. So don't necessarily bring all that trauma home to them. And like I say, like we talked about, if the spouses see it, speak up. Look for the resources that are out there, and they just kind of, like I say, just be there for everybody. If we're gonna, like I say, I get frustrated with the family, the brotherhood talk. So if we're gonna, the sisterhood talk. So if we're gonna do it, let's live it. If we're gonna say it, let's live it.
Yes, sir. 100%. So if someone wanted to reach out to Behind the Badge or anything like that, how would they reach out to you? Reach out to your entity or whatever?
Yeah. Trauma Behind the Badge is www.traumabehindthebadge.us. And then, man, I'm on every social media thing. I got Instagram, which I've had some people contact me through there, on direct messages. And, it's under Chris Fields or, FF4OU, on Instagram and Twitter. I keep up on all the, on the social stuff, LinkedIn, and it's all under my name, Chris Fields. So I don't use any kind of weird name or code name or anything like that. So, but you can contact me on either one of them. And it was just to reach out to, have a 5-minute phone conversation or whatever. We can do it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your honesty, the vulnerability, the courage it takes to tell the parts of your story that, most people never hear, most people never see.
Right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate what you're doing. So it's an outlet that's needed, and just to get the word out. There's a lot of us across the country, and there's a friend of mine named Kenny Mitchell who has a deal called. I need to get in contact with him.
Okay.
I need to get you his stuff. It's called Outside the Yellow Tape or Outside the Yellow. But like he says, one of his sayings is there's too many of us to ever feel alone.
If you think it's too heavy to say it anyway. It beats a eulogy. You don't have to apologize for surviving however you can. You're not the reason things are heavy. You're the reason they're still moving. Need support right now? Reach out to me. Reach out to somebody. Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. You're not alone. Not in this job. Not in this fight. Want to share your story or connect? Visit critical-run.com or message the Facebook page, Dispatched and Dysfunctional. We're building this for you, for them, for all of us.